I always thought that Netflix was crazy not to get into live sports sooner than they did. Those guys truly have a global footprint. I think they're late to the game, but it was a big success.
The performance of the broadcast, did that give you pause to do business with Netflix at all?
I didn't think the event was a great event, but they needed to do that. They knew Mike Tyson was going to bring in big...
Dana White has finally broken his silence, and his words hit harder than any punch ever thrown in the ring. You could see it all, the disappointment carved into his expression, the fire of frustration burning in his eyes.
He gets mad when I do this, but Mike's 60, man. I don't know. What do you guys think about it? Who gives a shit what I think? It's not my fight. I love Mike Tyson, personally as a friend, and he's one of my favorite athletes of all time.
Why? Because he just watched the reputation of boxing go up in flames, torched by a living legend and a self-proclaimed problem child. That's right. Mike Tyson and Jake Paul didn't just stumble. They ignited a spectacle that scorched the very integrity of the sport. It only takes two forces pulling in opposite directions to tear something legendary apart, and Tyson and Jake proved they were more than capable of doing just that.
I mean, all the people that are, there's a lot of, in Portnoy went out and said that it was the greatest con job of all time.
All those hype-packed training videos, the nonstop trash talk, and over-the-top threats, turns out they were just as fake as the fight itself. Hollow, pre-rehearsed, and a slap in the face to every fan who actually believed in the hype. How are we, the fans, ever supposed to trust a boxing match again?
Put together a training camp and come in and, I don't like to see guys fighting it. Be a 31-year age difference during that fight. Just, you guys know what I think of that.
Leaked footage has surfaced showing Mike Tyson and Jake Paul. Yes, that Mike Tyson, the boxing legend, and that Jake Paul, the internet's loudest glove wearer, allegedly rehearsing a scripted fight. Not sparring, not strategizing. Straight up, rehearsing. Like they were auditioning for a community theater play titled How to Scam Your Fans in 10 Rounds or Less. Let's talk about betrayal. Fans didn't shell out their hard-earned money to watch a glorified dress rehearsal. They paid generously for what was billed as a real clash of skill, grit, and legacy. Instead, they got what now looks like a carefully choreographed routine masquerading as a fight. This wasn't boxing, it was boxing cosplay. And the fans? The ones who bought tickets, pay-per-view streams, and overpriced merch? They didn't just get duped, they got played.
And it was a bit of a shit show, but, what did you expect? Seriously, when you stayed home and you turned on Netflix that night, we were like, holy f***, I'm about to see the greatest live sporting event of all time.
Let's not pretend this train wreck didn't come with a massive payday. Tyson reportedly walked away with $20 million, and Jake Paul, he raked in around $40 million. Millions. Yes, millions. For what exactly? A performance so painfully staged it would make pro wrestling look like Shakespeare in the Park.
There's a lot of, in Portnoy went out and said that it was the greatest con job of all time.
Dana White, the UFC boss, took one look at this disaster and lit it up without hesitation. He called it a circus act, though honestly, that's unfair to circuses. At least clowns don't pretend to be something they're not. This was a slap in the face to every real fighter who's ever bled, broken bones, or put everything on the line for the sport. White wasn't just upset. He was furious, calling the entire spectacle a stain on boxing's already fragile reputation.
My biggest problem with the Jake Paul thing is, and how this plays out, is when he actually fought somebody who was a boxer, who had the same type of record he has, who is his age,
Tommy,
and who is his size, he lost.
And yes, believe it or not, an actual fight script leaked online before the event, even down to the round-by-round breakdown. This wasn't some vague outline. It read like a full-blown screenplay. Tyson's explosive start? Scripted. Jake Paul's hesitant counter strategy? Scripted. The dramatic fifth round where someone almost goes down? You guessed it, completely scripted. So when the fight finally aired and unfolded beat for beat like the leaked script, it didn't feel like a match. It felt like watching a movie trailer you already knew the ending to. Only worse, because this one had the nerve to pretend it was real.
Well, X has spoken. The fight was scripted. Everyone is talking about this on X, and the script was actually leaked on X a few days ago.
Dana White didn't hold back. He tore into the fiasco with zero hesitation. He didn't just label the event a joke. He went straight for Jake Paul's entire career. White laid it out plain. Paul has made a habit of choosing opponents who are either well past their prime or shouldn't be in a boxing ring to begin with. According to White, Jake's matchmaking strategy seems simple. Find the oldest, slowest fighters available, and then pretend it's some monumental win. His frustration boiled over as he blasted Paul for dodging real competition, fighters who've dedicated their lives to the craft, while Paul plays pretend in the spotlight.
Opening bell rings, Tyson is showing flashes of his old form, which actually happened. As soon as the bell went, Mike Tyson came out with that head movement, pushing forward. Immediately, he stalks forward with his signature bob and weave style.
Every jab, every dodge, every so-called dramatic moment in that fight was choreographed like a scene out of a low-budget soap opera. Imagine being Dana White, running the UFC where fighters put everything on the line for a shot at greatness, only to watch Jake Paul and Mike Tyson reduce the sweet science to a staged performance. White didn't mince words. This wasn't boxing, it was theater. And not even good theater. It was a poorly acted spectacle that insulted everyone who actually respects the fight game.
Under any circumstances, almost 60-year-old man shouldn't be fighting a 27-year-old guy, even if it's Mike Tyson. So my biggest problem with the Jake Paul thing is, and how this plays out, is when he actually fought somebody who was a boxer, who had the same type of record he has, who is his age, Tommy, and who is his size, he lost.
And as for Jake Paul, yeah, Dana White had thoughts. He absolutely roasted him, tearing into Paul's habit of dodging legitimate contenders and instead cherry-picking faded legends well past their prime. Dana didn't hold back. He called out Jake's whole act for what it really is, a carefully calculated scam to build hype, inflate his ego, and cash massive checks, all without ever stepping in the ring with someone who could truly test him.
I mean, all the people that are, there's a lot of, in Portnoy went out and said that it was the greatest con job of all time.
And as for Tyson, let's not kid ourselves, Dana White wasn't handing out sympathy. He called it what it was. A legend cashing out his legacy for a quick $20 million. White's frustration wasn't just aimed at this one debacle. It was a loud, clear warning. Boxing is being hijacked by influencers who think throwing fake punches and serving up scripted drama somehow counts as skill. This wasn't a fight. It was a cheap stunt packaged to sell tickets. And honestly, hard to argue with him. Tyson and Paul didn't deliver a bout. They delivered a show nobody asked for.
What do I think of the Mike Tyson fight?
Yes.
Tyson's 58 years old. You know what I mean? Jake fought a guy who was his age and who was also considered a boxer, and he lost.
Now here's the part that really stings. The fans paid for this nonsense. They dropped their hard-earned money expecting a historic clash, a true battle of grit and generations. What did they get instead? A glorified sparring session, dressed up to look like a real fight. The whole thing was a flashy facade, a performance passed off as competition. And yet, it raked in massive pay-per-view numbers, because, let's be honest, people love a spectacle, even if it turns out to be smoke and mirrors.
So if you can keep fighting 50-something-year-olds...
You don't think Tyson has a chance?
And making a living at it. I think that Mike Tyson has a puncher's chance against anybody.
And Tyson? He didn't even need the paycheck. The man's already built a cannabis empire, stacked up endorsement deals, and still earns royalties from a career that cemented his legacy long ago. So why stoop to this level? It's not like he was out of options. Tyson could have spent his time doing anything else, anything more meaningful. But instead, he signed off on what's now being called one of the most embarrassing chapters in boxing history.
The Jake Paul and Mike Tyson fight.
Interesting.
Script.
How so? What do you mean by
It's just
script?
weird. It's just...
Like scripted in what way?
No, I don't know. I actually really like Jake.
As for Jake Paul, let's not kid ourselves. This was never about honoring the sport. It wasn't about earning respect in the boxing world. It was about manufacturing another viral headline. Jake Paul beats Mike Tyson. That phrase practically writes itself, and you can bet it's already stamped across every one of his social media pages. Never mind that Tyson is nearly 30 years older and well past his prime. Jake's playbook is clear. Handpick opponents who sound impressive, but pose minimal danger. It's not about challenge, it's about optics, hype, and the next big payday.
Mike Tyson's just been beat off Jake Paul. But how? Mike Tyson's an absolute legend and one of the greatest fighters of all time. How can this YouTuber beat such a great fighter?
And who paid the ultimate price for this circus? The fans, of course. They showed up in droves, hoping for a historic clash, something raw, real, and unforgettable. Instead, they got an emotional sucker punch. This wasn't boxing, it was a soap opera with gloves. The betrayal was unmistakable. Fans came for authenticity and left with a prepackaged sham. The whole event reeked of hollow theatrics, the kind you'd expect from a scripted reality show, not from a sport built on grit, glory, and heart.
I mean, all the people that are, there's a lot of, in Portnoy went out and said that it was the greatest con job of all time. I mean, if you didn't think that that's the way the fight, I don't know what people expect.
Even the referees seemed to be in on the farce. Their exaggerated calls and oddly timed pauses made it feel more like a scripted drama than a legitimate bout. At times, it looked like they were angling for supporting roles in the spectacle. And fans? They noticed, big time. Social media erupted with hashtags like #FakeFight and #SueJakePaul, as outraged viewers demanded refunds and even legal consequences for being duped. The backlash was instant and brutal. Memes flooded the internet, faster than Jake Paul ducks real opponents. Tyson's sluggish punches, Jake's over-the-top celebrations, nothing was off limits. But this wasn't just disappointment. It was raw betrayal. Some fans went as far as calling for Tyson and Paul to face legal action, accusing them of blatant, false advertising. And honestly, who could blame them? When you shell out money to watch a fight, you expect grit, not a rehearsed routine. But Tyson and Paul, they're not losing any sleep. This was never about the sport. It was about headlines, clicks, and cash. Integrity and respect for the fans were clearly left off the script, because the only thing real about this fight was the money they made from it.
If he wants to do boxing, why not fight guys that actually box for a living?
100%. Fight guys that box for a living and guys that are your age. How about that?
He says he wants to fight Canelo.
Don't forget to like the channel, subscribe, and press the bell icon to stay updated with all the latest content.